everybody, welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. This is Thomas, and today we are taking our second look at the Walther P38 design. Today, actually looking at a Spreewerk P38, and we're going to be kind of leaning into that side of the gun's history. This is a gun that came into my possession through interesting means. I actually mentioned in the most recent video that I was going to leave you guys hanging on a trade that I may or may not have been making. The trade was made. The Mauser Model 1934 is gone, and now we have this 1944 dated Spreewerk P38. Viewer and subscriber, I believe his name said Dion, arranged the trade with me, and yeah, I think this will make for a cool video. I haven't talked about a P38 on the channel in about a year at this point, a little over a year actually, so got a bit to unpack here. Let's go ahead and go into the gun room and talk history.
As I've already mentioned, we've gone over the P38 design already on this channel. It has, however, been a long time. It was actually well before we'd established the gun room and this style of demo video. So this is going to look a little more up to date with our current style of videos, but there is a lot of information that we're going to be kind of glossing over with this one, that if you would like to know more about the background, go back to the original Walther P38 demo that I did. I'll be posting a link in the video description. However, we're going to do a brief recap of the history. So throughout the 30s, the German military was looking to replace the Luger. It was expensive and difficult to make and time-consuming. Starting in 1936, development began on a new pistol design. The original design had a covered hammer. German army didn't like that so much, so 1938, the design that you see before us here was finalized, and in 39, production really kicked off. Around 1 million P38s would be made by the three primary companies, those being Walther, making, I believe, the majority of the pistols, Mauser making some 360,000 or so, if I'm not mistaken, and then Spreewerk. Spreewerk made, I believe, 280,000, about 280,880 all total, being the least produced brand and the only one of the three that was entirely made outside of Germany. Slides sometimes for other brands were made at, I believe it's FN, but as a whole, Mauser and Walther pistols were made in Germany. Spreewerk is actually made in the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia at the time. And now we're going to be getting into new material here. So again, Spreewerk or Spreewerk, you hear people say it both ways, but Spreewerk would be the more correct German pronunciation of the word. Factory established in Czechoslovakia. People at the top of the chain in the factory would have more often than not probably been skilled Czech laborers who would have either been press ganged into working there or paid to work there. Germany did have contracts with organizations in most of the countries that they occupied for their workers. So generally speaking, you're going to hear that Spreewerk was a slave factory, and while the non-skilled labor side of it almost certainly was, there is some debate on it. I've seen it said both ways. I've seen people say definitively Spreewerk was 100% a slave factory, and I've seen the other side of the coin saying that there was none of that going on. I think it's pretty likely, and there is evidence to the fact that there was a significant amount of slave labor at the Spreewerk factory, but Spreewerk is both the most looked over and less known about of the three manufacturers. So there's a lot of stuff that's been left to speculation over the years. As I said, they made the least of any of the three manufacturers. The factory is located near Lubeck, Czechoslovakia, and officially called Spreewerk Werk Grotto, or Grotau, or I'm not 100% sure how to say that word. And I can't really say for sure if it's in Czech or in German, because it is a German factory in Czechoslovakia. But interesting pistol. Definitely something that I'm glad to have in the collection now. The 1934 is gone, but for the time being, the Spreewerk P38 is here. So there's a lot of interesting history behind the P38. A lot of things that we're going to be looking at in the markings, including an interesting marking that I hadn't actually seen before. And yeah, with that, I guess we'll go ahead and go to the tabletop and start taking a peek at those. Markings on the P38 are fairly straightforward. You've got, designation P38, and then right here is going to be where your manufacturer code is. CYQ is the Spreewerk code. We've talked about in the Walther video. I actually have it right here, so I'll just show you. AC, often something that you're going to be seeing for Walther. AC42 being the example that I have. And then Mauser was BYF until 1945 when it was switched to SVW briefly. On this gun, you've also got this interesting little asterisk right at the tip of my finger there between, they got serial number, which ends with a P, and then that weird asterisk, and then Eagle 88. There's another one of those markings right there. That indicates that the frame, when the gun was inspected, did not pass inspection and was sent back to be corrected. And then once it was corrected, it would have been given the proof mark. This is something that's very common on late war pistols, particularly Spreewerks, from my understanding. Now, with Spreewerk, determining a date, you're pretty much going to have to look at a chart unless you just know how the charts work off the top of your head. This particular example is a May of 1944 example. And even with the Walther, though it has the year date marked clearly on it, it doesn't have a month. So to look it up further, charts can easily be found. You can see that the barrel also is marked with a CYQ. Now, once you got the gun locked open, which the gun will lock on an empty mag, then you can take out the magazine. Don't need that anymore for the rest of this. There's a couple ways to do this from here. One thing you have to do no matter what is pull this lever forward. Now you can either drop the slide, then pull the trigger, then remove everything, or what we're going to do is we're going to turn on safety. Reason for that is the safety doubles as a decocker, and it will have the same function as pulling the trigger. The slide lock is right there, so release, and then guide it off. Now, got the frame separate, and yeah. Get the barrel out, you're going to press in this button here and slide it out. Frames on Spreewerks are often machined very rough, and you can see kind of some machining marks on this one. It's not terrible. It's a little dinged up on this side, but who knows how or when that happened. But it's very common for later war Spreewerk slides to be extremely rough. And this is something that we talked about before on the original video, actually. This block, which is what actually locks the gun up, is normally going to be in the white on both Mauser and Walther. But on Spreewerk specifically, it can be blued. They are the only company that did that. If you see a blued block on a Walther or a Mauser, that is not original and is probably something that the Russians did to it. Speaking of which, I had one of these in the past that was a Russian capture, and a lot of times somewhere right in here you would see a large X just carved into the gun, and it would be a deep black bluing that they did to it. That's mostly what you would see the Russians do to these guns. Mine was both mismatched and very, very clearly re-blued. To insert the barrel back into the slide, you want to push that button that I just did right there. See when this block is in that position, button protrudes. Push that in so that it can fit into the slide. Now once it's in the slide, you want to push that block back. Because if it is not, then it will hang up right there. It is easy to get hung up. Sometimes there's some little parts back here that will fall out of place if you tip the gun up while you're doing this, and that can lead to annoyances. So just make sure that everything's in place before you try to reef the slide back into place. Get everything lined up, pull it back, and lock with that lever right there. Click that back into place, and we don't need to drop the hammer, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the safety off, and then release the slide. And that is all she wrote, all back together. Let's go ahead and go back out to the range and put another mag through this.
Loading the P38 is going to be the same as loading most European pistols of the era. You've got a heel release, so kind of depress that heel release back with the mag and insert. And yeah, just rack it. Like we've discussed before, the P38 is the design that kind of started off the modern pistol design. It's also one of your earlier pistols to have a decocker. So when you put the gun on safe, it decocks the hammer. Then when you put it back on fire, you're now in double action for the first shot. It's an 8-shot pistol. And we do also have a little one in the chamber indicator that you can kind of see at the tip of my finger there right above the hammer. Now, 8 shots, here we go. Had a little bit of a issue. It slipped back into double action for some reason. Not a major issue, probably just needs cleaned, but it did slip back into double action for some reason after the 6th shot there. But anyway, P38, ladies and gentlemen, very interesting gun. Again, there's a lot to be said for P38s of all makes, and now the only one that we haven't looked at is a Mauser P38. And if I ever get my hands on one, we'll definitely be taking a look at it. Meantime, hope you all enjoyed the video. It's been Thomas with Great Northwest Weaponry, and I'll see you next time.